It is trite to say we live in a digital world. Information is at the touch of a screen, shared globally. Innovations are dropping at the speed of light. So as Ghana introduces more technology to enhance business activity, we need to look at the security implications of that. Tonight, we will be looking at cybersecurity. We will also be looking at the emergence or increase in vigilantism or military political militancy in the nation. We will also cross over to the Ko and Afram Plains to take a critical look at the Fulani herdsmen menace. It's sad to announce that we've lost 8 people in only a space of 6 days. This is Ghana Tonight. My name is Ebo Jebi. We'll be right back. Welcome back. Tonight on Ghana Tonight, we are discussing cybersecurity. There's fears, especially amongst the cybersecurity experts in the nation, with a spate of hacks and break-ins into some state agencies, websites, and information data. With me tonight in the studio to discuss these issues are 2 security specialists. The first one is Mr. Alex Opong. He's the principal consultant for E-Crime Bureau of Ghana. Next to him is Ibad Ibrahim. He's an international relations, supremacy, and security analyst. Welcome, gentlemen.
Ketechi.
Well, thank you
so much. Thank you for having us, Ketechi.
Ketechi.
He had to bring that Ketechi.
I have Ketechi here, and we have an Amanfo.
Yes.
I'm even surprised he's here. He's only one odd one out.
He just had to do cybersecurity because you know Amanfo and Kululu.
You know, so for line, he had to have gone to Santas instead of Sofoline. So I'm sure after this program we'll know what to do with him.
It looks like this conversation is going to be very interesting. Yeah. Okay, welcome, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll start off with cybersecurity, with the slew of introduction of technologies from paperless port system, the Ghana card thing that's coming, DVLAs, smart driver's license, and all these coming. It gives concern that given our usage of internet and how secure data is, we'd like to get a feel of how prepared we are as a nation when it comes to cybersecurity with our information technology. I'll start off with you, Alex, since you are principal consultant to E-Crime.
Yes, that's great. Okay.
So what's cybersecurity?
Okay, so I mean, when we talk about cybersecurity, I mean, essentially, as it suggests, cyber is everything to do with the internet. It's basically the internet. Yeah, cyberspace is the internet. And so when we're talking about its security, we're obviously trying to look at the security that we apply to things that we do, we would use your day-to-day internet with. I think one of the things we need to start off with, essentially, is look at what new innovations through technology have given to us as a nation, or even generally globally. I mean, gone are the days when, we come from a generation where you go to the library looking for a particular page in a book, and you find out that the book is there,
right,
but someone's torn the page out.
Right.
Okay, but now, because of the internet, children from Africa, children from the United States are on the same playing field.
Right.
And day in and day out, we're finding out that actually, Africa is producing the kind of geniuses that we thought were things that only belong to the Western world.
Okay.
And
can you elaborate on that?
Oh, okay. So I'll give you a rough example. So, for instance, not too long ago, we hear that we've got a 13-year-old doing a degree course.
Yes.
And KUST.
Yes.
Now, I mean,
St. Louis girl.
Yes. So, I mean, we're talking about someone who probably has used the internet resources very well to do a lot of study and follow up on the interest that she has. Before, it used to be a matter of you identify a particular kid or child who's got so talented but has minimal resources to be able to realize their real potential. But nowadays, the internet provides you everything that you're looking for. If there's every single subject you can think of, there's a. But saying that, with all the good that the internet provides, through trade, through education, through financial inclusion and everything else, there's always going to be the bad guys out there looking to exploit the technologies that are available and the gaps that are. So today, there's been a lot of discussion. I mean, last week we had the National Cybersecurity Week, and a lot of the discussion was around how safe the internet is for children, how safe the internet is for electronic payments and different transactions. And people are very concerned about the safety of what cyberspace provides us, because it's a matter of, all we could see is the internet is what's driving us today.
Now, you mentioned the Cybersecurity Week.
Yes.
Was it coincidence or was it planned? Or was there a concern on the side of government that people are not well informed with security issues when it comes to the cyberspace?
Okay, man. You find that in the month of October, I mean, the government's launched a lot of e-projects. Right. Okay. Digital addressing, you have the e-cards and all of that. I think what we're basically trying to do is basically make sure that the world is not leaving us behind. To ensure that if we're going to use technology, we better use it to the benefit of the everyday person. It shouldn't be to the benefit of just a few. So in providing all these different kinds of e-platforms, it is essential that you also consider or dedicate some time to sensitize the masses as to what kind of dangers you face, apart from the opportunities that exist within using technology or the internet.
Okay.
So I think the Cybersecurity Week came at basically at an opportune time, a great time for all Ghanaians. And I believe that with the number of people that came in to listen to different workshops, sat in workshops, listen to different lectures and all that, I think we're better people in terms of how informed we are. I mean, even today, you still hear, I mean, there have been a lot of discussions surrounding things like mobile money, fraud, and everything else. The reason why people are identifying and why people are speaking out about it is because they know that mobile money as a financial inclusion tool, it's really beneficial to everyone. It means that our mothers in the village, our grandmothers in the village are able to receive or send money whenever they want to.
Right.
You see, when you look at the mobile money side, where you're looking at 22 million mobile money accounts. Accounts. In terms of transaction, last year, it was 78 billion Ghana cedis of transactions. Some of the banks don't even come close to that. I mean, when you go to regular banking, there's only 11.6 million regular accounts. And now these are stats that are basically from the Bank of Ghana. Right. So you could see how technology is playing a really good part, or a fantastic part.
Now, let me bring Ibad in here. Having botched your title as diplomacy, and I say supremacy, well,
don't worry,
Pukwa are always supreme over
no,
certainly,
yeah,
now,
certainly.
International relations, diplomacy, and security.
Yeah.
So you have a broad spectrum of, operation. And Alex mentioned that cyberspace has opened up borders, so there's borderless.
Yeah.
So how does international relations, diplomacy gets played into this whole affair?
Okay, Kwetachi, sorry my voice is a bit husky because I'm down with cold. When you look at the cyberspace, much as the internet has created so many opportunities, it has been chaperoned and accompanied by various challenges. So you hear of first world countries like the United States of America complain that their arsenal of nuclear warheads is not safe enough, because somebody can just, hack into it and do whatever the person wants to do with it. So therefore, at that level, you are discussing the military-industrial complex. That is why Kim Jong-un, the president of North Korea, has been called the rocket man, because he continues to saber rattle and throw his weight about. At that level, you would be discussing first world countries. Because with Ghana, when you go to Burma camp, I don't know the level of, IT firewall there is around the Burma camp. So we are not looking at this on a macro level. We would rather the micro level. Mobile money transactions, how an ATM machine is broken into, how it is safe for you to shop online on eBay, to buy books on Amazon, and a host of others.
Now, let me interrupt you and ask you, are we doing this the right way? Don't you think we have a cultural behavior when it comes to information collection and retention? Say, you go and buy roasted plantain, and you see someone's bank statement being, that you see the name and very vital information out there. Don't we have this culture of not, respecting information and data?
We give away information so easily. You meet a dude for the first time, hi, how are you? Then the person tells you everything about himself or herself.
Now, see, that's personal, but like institutions, why would a bank or any organization give your resume away, like just not shred it, but just give it?
Every bank should have a shredder, a shredding machine. And so therefore, at the end of the day, but when you buy roasted plantain, chances are you will find your personal details from a certain bank. We are so generous. People think instead of shredding these, vital pieces of paper, you would rather give them to somebody to recycle or do a second, a secondary utilization. But fundamentally, what I'm saying is that, yes, in discussing cybersecurity, I don't want us to stress ourselves too much. The challenges
Is it because we're not there yet?
We aren't there at all.
So shouldn't we prepare ourselves, sensitize ourselves with the value, importance of, keeping information dear and, sacred, so that when we get to that point where we can manufacture a nuclear rocket bomb or whatever, we're not compromised?
Every system that is not defunct runs on a certain a certain server. So, for example, you talk about state institutions like the Electricity Company of Ghana. Somebody can shut down the national grid.
Right.
But I believe because of our foreign policy inclinations as a country, we are not bellicose. We don't pick fights with people. That is why throughout the Cold War, there was mutual sabotage between the United States and the then Soviet Union. Ghana, as we stand, as a third world country, don't have too many foreign enemies.
I understand.
That is why I think we
don't
shouldn't
have
lose sleep.
enemies,
We shouldn't lose sleep over the macro issues of cybersecurity, but would rather the micro ones to keep people's transactions
I
safe
understand that.
and a host of others.
We don't necessarily, like you said, we're not a bellicose nation, a bellicose people to say. But someone can get data information on you and manipulate you and your economy. And when we go to Facebook, all our activities are being observed in the back. Don't you think that's where we have to start educating people that, you need to be...
Katichi, anytime you go online and read my lips, you leave trappings. You leave, trappings of your personal details.
Right.
That is why when you deal with, foreign officials, for example, people from the State Department, there is a very secure, server they use to, send emails. So if I were working for the state and I had to send you an email, there would be a hiatus in the flow of information so that DC would verify the information before it would get to the final destination. That was why when Hillary was using her personal email to do government business, she had issues.
Yeah, let me ask Alex. When some of these government appointees or civil servants, they give you their business card and you see ebojebi at yahoo.com. Because they're transacting official business with these emails. What would you say to that?
I think you find out that not too long ago, Yahoo actually came out to say that they've been hacked and that most of their accounts basically had been hacked. And basically, the information on their account holders basically was out there in the markets. when it comes to government officials, as Senior's probably pretty much said, one of the things that you need to do is, because you're dealing with the business of government, every information that goes from official A to official B should be considered as confidential. Okay. Now, when you you do those kind of emails, obviously it will be required that the communication is going over secured servers, so that the information that is basically moving is not intercepted by a hacker or someone who would basically use the information for other things. It is true that you find that some organizations do, when you pick up a card, you find that they have the yahoo.coms. But I think they're gradually, it's moving, because now and again I'm picking up business cards that are actually stating, you can actually see that they have government domains as their email address. And obviously I'm sure that they're going through the same process like every other business will go through, because in terms of identifying information as a critical business asset. It's the same way when you leave your house right now. When you're going, you lock the door. That's essentially how you have to treat information. You have to consider it as a critical business asset and be able to make sure that you put all the protection that you have in place. So things like encryption, and nowadays when you speak to a lot of people, they talk about encryption. And when you talk about even going into offices nowadays, you find that a lot of government offices, even moving from one floor to another, it's all biometric systems in place, because they're identifying that in protecting the data information, you have to also protect the physical place where you're keeping this data. So you find that as you walk in the day-to-day basis, you've got a biometric system, or you have to use a card or something else. So gradually, I think, yes, the mistakes have been identified, that particular practices haven't been the best, and therefore they need to start following best practice. But like every system, it's a gradual process. People get used to it. I mean, for some government organizations, people will probably tell you that there are a lot of members of staff who probably are still not familiar with how to use a computer, and therefore they wouldn't even go near one. Right. So you've only got a few people who will be, and it will be, so things like, for instance, where we tell people on a day-to-day basis, do not share your password. Right. If the person has got computer phobia, obviously they will have to share their password if they have to send an email or something like that. So I think it's all about sensitization, awareness, and now that Ghana is actually embracing a lot of these technology innovations, I believe time and time again people will pick up those best practices and be able to flow with it in terms of all the different bits, and stay away from, and make sure that information that is critical and very important is secured at all times. I mean,
well, talking about using the computers and going online, you can join us on TV Africa GH or Ghana Tonight TV Africa, and you can follow me personally, Ebo JB. Okay, Alex, let me ask you this. There's going to be an establishment of a National Cybersecurity Council. I know your outfit advises the government, and you would have an insight into why we're doing this. Being that we're still crawling, like you said, majority of our folks don't even know how to use the PC. We practically do WhatsApp with all of these high gadgets that we buy. What's the purpose of this whole thing, and how is it going to help the nation prepare ourselves for any cyber attacks?
Okay. Just to correct a few things, e-crime particularly doesn't provide a direct advice to the government, just to correct it. But we do assist when we are required to assist at any point in time. But in terms of this committee, it's necessary, especially with the kind of embrace that was the way we're embracing the technology nationwide, that the government is the person who basically, the government actually shows that, or demonstrates that they've got a concern about cybersecurity, and that's why the Cybersecurity Week was brought into play, to make people show that yes, the government is aware that we do have issues with our security when it comes to the cyberspace, and that they have decided to do something about it. And in setting up the interministerial working party for cyber, it does show that they are putting, basically making a concerted effort to ensure that, yes, we would want to use all the benefits that technology provides us as a nation, but we also want to make sure that our people who are using these technologies are also protected. So you find out that now and again, you get something like the Data Protection Commission coming in and saying that, look, if you feel that your data's been abused in any way, let me know. And they're really encouraging people to, for instance, send reports to it, because now and again, if I wake up in the morning and I find out that my information is being used, is being printed off, and is being used to basically wrap up some groundnuts. I would like to make a complaint about it and know who exactly I want to complain to, because that print off has come from a computer.
Do we have the setup as a nation for these complaints?
Oh yes, the Data Protection Commission. They have asked anyone who's got any complaints about data to write to them straight away, and they would basically follow up and investigate accordingly. So,
Edward, what's your take on that?
No, but do you have to write to the Data Protection Commission? You remember when we lost Major Maxwell Mahama?
Yes.
Some people created online accounts to do fundraisers, and these were con people online. The Ghana Police Service, I doubt, would even have a very robust presence online. So therefore, fundamentally, how long does it take to do a bank transfer? As soon as your account is compromised, your account can be emptied in a matter of a minute or two. So who do you write to? What hotline do you call? So therefore, I believe E-Crime Bureau and a host of other stakeholders in this industry should prod government further to provide the infrastructure for us to continue to protect very vital
So it's basically the attitude of inertia that we have as a people. We never act till something happens and we jump. I call them Monday morning quarterbacks. They react after the facts are clear. Well, let's bring in Salom Abrantia. He's Director of Communications in Imani Ghana. Salom, what's your take on this whole reporting to the data, whatever unit that we have?
I think when it comes to technology, as a nation, I think our policies are a bit, probably 3 decades behind.
Like everything else.
I'll say that because, don't worry.
No.
I'll say that because it's funny we were talking about having to report.
Secure.
Because if you go to the Ghana Police Service website, there's a link that talks about cybersecurity, but that link has Lobsem Ipsum.
Alex, have you seen that link?
No, I haven't actually.
Well, you should be snooping down.
that link is not even, the page there is not complete. So that's the first thing. Beyond that, we have a very poor attitude towards data in the country. Records keeping is something that is almost non-existent if you want to compare it to modern standards. In all the MDAs, district assemblies, etc., records nobody has ever bothered to do anything related to digitizing records. Anytime there's going to be a serious forensic audit of records, suddenly there's a fire outbreak. We should tell you that people have already realized that there are very many ways to bury crime in paper, and they know that those papers can be shredded and gotten rid of at the snap of a finger, because we do not already have protocols that deal with data. In other jurisdictions, for example, government computers, if they are being disposed of, the hard drives are taken out and kept in storage. They are actually, some of them are kept in storage, depending on how sensitive.
Some even
there's some of the tapes, which basically means that they are demagnetized, so all the data is extracted out. So as part of the distraction,
they take out all the platters and all of that, and you would get the raw. So they'll give the computers to charity or whatever. But you would never get
the hard disk
in it.
Earlier in the year, there was a virus that originated from Ukraine. And almost the entire Western world was shut down.
You're talking about the WannaCry.
WannaCry.
And there was a map that was put out. And when you look at the map, all the red spots were the places that
yeah,
were,
the big places where there are nodes.
And then in Africa, you had a spot in Nigeria, a spot in South Africa, and maybe Botswana, and
that
that's
was it. Yes.
Does that indicate that we don't use the information superhighway to conduct?
No, not at all. It just means that we're lucky not to have plugged into nodes that had the WannaCry variants. That doesn't mean that we haven't been affected. There has been this ransomware.
Yes, that's going on for quite a while.
Going on. Well, I've had friends who have been victims of it right here in Ghana.
So
all these threats do exist, and beyond that, you see, there are 1,000 other threats. Even you see, some of the threats are device specific. For example, there are some threats that go through Android phones. Some websites, for example, that once you visit, you are automatically downloading keyloggers and things like that to extract your information. There's something that we call phishing, which is a very big issue in Ghana right now because people are using it to let people enter bank details into fictitious emails where people go in there, download the bank apps, and then take money from the people's accounts. All of those things are going on. So actually, it is very important now that we have a cybersecurity bureau or
council.
It's very important.
Are we not going to create another white elephant?
No, it depends on the kind of people who are running that bureau, the council rather, and depends on what kind of mandate they have been given and what powers that they have. Because I think we should take it seriously today because now personal data is a gold mine. Businesses. The reason why companies like Google, Amazon, and the rest are huge
is
because, yes, Facebook actually, that's Big Brother right there, is because they have access to data that is so personal to people that their spouses do not even know about. Yes. And it is that kind of data that can be used either to predict your behavior, yes, because now we even have artificial intelligence and predictive computing models that are there. They can predict who you are going to interact with, what you are going to buy. They can be used to blackmail you, for example. If, for example, people have nude pictures on their phones and stuff, it can be used. People are being blackmailed with those things. And there's 1,001 other things. Corporate espionage and the rest can take place through the use of these devices. And these things are things that are clear and present threats. I mean, a couple of years ago and last year, a lot of our government websites were pawned and hacked by a bunch of Pakistanis and Eastern Europeans. And for months, if you went to some of the websites, you would see a picture of the hacker's name. And they were just there for a long time, and nobody did anything about it. Several things that can be done. For example, if the government is launching a particular project, somebody can decide, somebody who wants to sabotage the government can decide to do something like a denial of service attack, and boom, the service is down. These are things that we need to think through very clearly, and it doesn't come just from the Cybersecurity Bureau Council alone, but also on an aggressive policy and protocol around how...
And education too.
Yes.
Because listen, we all just, majority of us would only use the internet to do WhatsApp or Facebook.
Or
because, listen,
check emails.
The FA Cup was played over the weekend.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't happen to really like football and all of that. So for kicks, I went on Google, Ghana News. And you would have thought such a big event would just pop up like, over the weekend. Same thing with when we had the Accra Marathon, or maybe that got sidelined with the Atomic Junction explosion. Yeah. But we are not very readily available on the internet, the fastness of using it. So I guess, like you said, even if the government has to do any sensitization, we'd rather go to the TVs and the radios and just do them. So we haven't really shifted from the usual day-to-day as we do it, analog stuff, false cap thing, to this point. So my question is, with the Cyber Security Council and all that we're doing with paperless, look at the brouhaha with the paperless port system. Okay, users are kicking against it, something that's supposed to make life easy for you. So maybe we need to get more.
I think before Salom, came, you made reference to the point that within this month we've launched a host of products as a country. But let's not lose sight of the fact that Ghana still remains largely a conservative society. I'm not saying we shouldn't keep up with the Joneses. For example, the paperless, regime that has been introduced at the ports, maybe people needed more sensitization. And mind you, People are using smartphones, but not everybody is educated enough.
Right.
And so therefore, we should be a bit cautious. And the pace at which we're introducing some of these, my mother cannot use a smartphone to do anything. Your granny in the village cannot do that. So therefore, we are looking at different strata based upon how savvy people are.
So
how
are we?
tech savvy.
Are we?
So I believe we are
we jumping
galloping
before
too
we can
fast.
crawl?
Exactly. So therefore, I
don't
believe we
believe so.
need
Yeah, I don't
to
believe so.
be in touch with the masses.
The basic user.
How many people are, look at the literacy, percentage. Maybe Imani can tell us. Only an infinitesimal.
See, that
part
should
of
be
this
something that the
population.
government tells us, not Imani. But see, this is how we end up relying on private or international bodies to get information that we should have.
Yes, but fundamentally, the point I'm, floating here is that is good. For my generation, millennials and others, we are there's so much euphoria about doing things using technology. But let's not, leave behind a good number of the population that would want to crawl, continue to do things in the conservative way. Look at the number of people that have been laid off as a result of the paperless, system at the ports. So therefore, these ideas are novel, they are good, but I believe we can't be the United States of America. We can't. When the vice president was touting the Ghana Post GPS system,
Yes.
he said we're going to be better than certain countries in the Western Hemisphere. When in fact, we give directions by telling people they should pass by a cocoa vendor, pass under a tree. So therefore, let's be realistic in introducing some of these technological products onto the Ghanaian market so that people will gravitate towards them naturally. You can't bring, high caliber, innovations into the system and just throw them at us. It has to be steady, it has to be painstaking until all of us can gel, rather than thinking Ghana can transmogrify in no time to be the US or Japan.
Maybe this is what we need to do as a nation. Maybe we need to localize these technologies. Get to understand the language behind it, the codes behind them. Look at our behaviors and cater to them. What do you think?
One of the things you got to remember about the technology, for instance, let's go to the phones, the mobile phones and mobile money and everything. And earlier I quoted the stats, which would basically, and I think that stat goes to a long way to show that how ready we are in terms of embracing technology. If you've got 22 million mobile money accounts, as opposed to your 11.6 million regular bank accounts, it shows that people have a certain degree, some kind of awareness of how to use your day-to-day phones to do transactions.
Or could it be because we don't have a very vibrant banking industry?
Our banking industry.
That's another conversation.
But our banking industry, the whole idea behind mobile money and all that was to ensure that the financial inclusion of the people who have decided not to go was to do your regular banking. It's bumped up. Essentially, and it seems to be something that has worked. When you go to East Africa, for instance, I think about I can't remember the stats very well, but it's close to about 90% of people using mobile money platforms to do their day-to-day banking and do other things as well besides just banking. Maybe we haven't got to the other things yet, but I think pretty much as a country, when it comes to understanding how to use our mobile phones to do simple, your everyday banking and getting 100 Ghana cedis to your grandmother and her knowing how to get that money out and all that. I think we're doing pretty well in that respect. And then I think in that respect, you really should give some credit to the population that we're in, because I think people are getting an understanding of how these things work.
Okay.
And as much as we think technology is always a big thing, there are going to be certain things that, yes, some people are not going to understand how the technology works.
Yeah.
But for the things that, for our everyday life that we're using, I think pretty much we're doing well in that respect.
Okay. On that note, we'll take a short break. When we return, we will look at the spate or the surge in political militancy that's surging again in the nation, and how the government or the security agencies don't seem to have a clue as to how to curb it. Stay with us. Welcome back. You're watching Ghana Tonight. In the studio with me tonight is Ibart Ibrahim. He is an international relations, diplomacy, and security analyst. Alex Opon is principal consultant, E-Crime Bureau. And we have Selom Abrantier. He's director of communications with Imani. We have a video to show you about the surge or insurgence of vigilantism or political militancy in the nation. This has been going on for years, and now it's rearing its ugly head again. We'll see a video here, and then we'll come back and discuss in the studio.
Bini Boga Bulldogs, Azoka Boys, Kandahar Boys, Invisible Forces, Bamba Boys, any afufro pia aka, womu free amanyokwa kesiye mienua, ewo maigane mu NDC, any NPP, ejuma, titiriwa watayo ene se, edru abatwa afia, wonu musori jina bo banse beya, madutua, esese wonu mamanyokwo enyano, eson kote, etoda swa, wade bambo ema womu mpenimfua ewa amanyokwo num, ashafo bekaya, afi 2010, ebra by election.
Okay, gentlemen, I'll start us off with, because these guys are security guys, they even accused you to provide us with information on data, how we use internet and all.
Yeah, surprisingly, some 4 years ago, I was with Selom Brantier on GTV to discuss militancy, but of an international.
Well, here you meet again. I'll start it off with you, Selom.
Yeah.
Why do you think these things has become an albatross around every administration that comes to power?
Because we are not allowing systems to work like they should. It's very simple. The police feel like they have to get clearance from the powers that be, in quotes, before they can have the guts to arrest those they need to arrest for the law to take its course. And also because the executive seems to have, when I say the executive here, I'm talking about the executive presidency, the administration kind of thing. They seem to have a certain kind of hold on the security services, which probably is a throwback from the days of maybe the juntas, the military revolutions and juntas that existed, where sort of once an order came from the castle, you as a policeman, you were bottom feeder, sort of. You are the bottom of the food chain.
Yeah, you hear police officers say,
you'll be transferred to some place where you don't want to be transferred to. So if you don't want to change your sleeping place, you have to wait for master say before you move. I think that has been embedded in the DNA of every police officer. And it's quite unfortunate that the little cubs that we left to grow have now become fully grown, voracious lions. And those lions are now biting us in the most embarrassing ways possible. And as a nation, we should be embarrassed in quotes about what is happening, because what we are doing is that we are fostering some. This is not even vigilantism. This is basically criminal activity, because you are obstructing justice, you are obstructing officers of the law, you are actually assaulting officers of the law, which in any jurisdiction, once you did something like that, you are guaranteed very good time in jail for reflection on your own life. But unfortunately, such people now have become so powerful that they can go in and decide to become, rescuers, Rambo-style rescuers, which is a very bad thing. These are the kind of things that no investor would want to see, because today it might be party politics. Tomorrow, it might be the fact that if I have an investment somewhere, somebody can decide to encroach upon it and say, to hell with the police can't do anything to me. I'm the local kingpin in this area. We are not known for such lawlessness. Those things happen in war-torn countries. Yeah. Unfortunately now, we are going to have situations where, like the video was saying, you have all these fiefdoms. This area is controlled by X and Y crew and Y and Z gang. And then
Yeah.
before you realize, it spirals into a whole different thing, because these people are so powerful and they have so much connections with the political establishment that they can never be tried or arrested. And they will go on and recruit others because people want to be under that level of protection. And then before long, you have a kind of a mafia type shyster running system.
Yeah.
And it doesn't, we should nip it in the bud.
But like
Before it
nipping it in the
even
bud,
grows.
Ibart, I've heard you proffer solutions or ways of handling with these things on several platforms.
Yes, Kati.
We seem to be coming back to the same spot. I even heard you when there was an issue with Chief Imam Shaributu, there was a transition. You proffered wonderful solutions
yes,
to
yes, sir.
But Selim seems to, and we all tend to agree, that the security forces seem to be very disabled or incapable to handle these issues because of orders from above. How do we as a people really get rid of these behaviors?
I think the issue is not about capacity or lack thereof on the part of our security agencies. Mind you...
Is it a will?
It's a political will, and I think Selim emphatically stated that invincible forces, how many are they? Maybe the number a few dozens or a few hundreds. Kandahar boys in the Tamale area, how many are they? These are ill-trained young people. A few of them have pumped iron, but that doesn't suffice for you to overpower a police officer. And
now, one interesting thing too, they actually give you a forewarning before they act.
That is the impunity.
Yeah,
That's
because they know nobody
preponderance
can
of
shut them
impunity.
down. But in reality, they are not even trained
They
to
aren't
do
powerful.
anything.
I think we are creating an aura of invincibility around these people, and we are only upping the ante. We are raising their profile.
You made a valid point, and this is where I'm going to hone in this cyber crime thing. Ibar just said these are guys that are not very well academically educated, so they use brawn. Now, should they get the minds to train to how to do hacking and all of that? What are the implications of this?
You see, when it comes to cyber crimes in particular, you find out that there are quite a large number of people who, quite a large number of these gangs, very organized nowadays, basically perpetrating different kinds of cybercrime. And it's not because they are very good hackers or whatsoever. It's because
just rogue hackers.
It's now because on the internet you could actually access and purchase hacking tools,
right?
Which then all it requires is that it says identify, for instance, a target, press a button, bang, it's hacking away.
Yeah. So basically, these guys, if they get a little brainy, okay, start writing some code, basic plus.
And that's what I mean. They don't even need to write the code.
You don't even need to. So now they can hack into any campaign platform or the EC or Ghana card or anything like, if they are disgruntled.
All we are doing is we are creating a fertile ground for criminal activity that will be unprecedented in this country, period. Because the people who are supposed to enforce the law have been disenfranchised by some faceless people that they know or don't even know will react or not.
In fact, they've been disempowered. Look,
so what's the point of having a police force then?
The Ghana Police Service has a man force of well over 32,000. And when we serve in peacekeeping missions abroad, we don't only take our soldiers.
We take police officers.
we take military police officers. Yeah. Look at our stellar performance in Liberia, in Sierra Leone, currently with MINUSMA in northern Mali. These are very gallant people in uniform. But because some big person sitting in the Flagstaff House will give a division or a district a call to say that these were the boys who protected party headquarters and party rallies. In fact, when the National Security Minister was complaining about the activities of these groups, he was told by someone that, where were you when they were protecting us during the times of drought, when we were in opposition? So there is a level of indebtedness on the part of the powers that be, that these were boys that were helpful for the 8 years we were in opposition. But if you really want to say thank you to them, get them jobs. There are better ways of, enjoying your fair share of the national cake, rather than using brute force to take people away from where they have been put or vandalize state property. And then the punitive measures we put in place would also serve as a deterrent. If the Delta forces broke into a court, vandalized it, and desecrated its sanctity, and at the end of the day, initially we said there wasn't enough evidence, and later they were given a fine to a meager tune of 1,800 Ghana cedis. And I'm told a party functionary, paid in cash at the court. You're only emboldening others to tread the same path.
See, so we are all to blame in this instance.
No, the political elites are to blame.
Well, we put them there. We put them there. So don't you think we're giving the police a pass so easily because we think some guys are pulling strings somewhere?
No, the IGP is a political appointee.
The police really could do swift arrests if they believed that their positions would not be threatened.
Compromised.
It's a matter of them fearing that if I go and catch this guy right now, I am the one who's going to face it. So there will be, and even when they do go ahead and effect the arrest, there is a lack of willingness to prosecute, because then the Attorney General's office and all those people then do not even press the right charges. And we have seen it happen. We've seen it happen with the Muntie 3. We've seen it happen with the Kumasi boys. What's their name?
And Delta Force.
Delta Force.
I mean, Delta Force. Look at all these ridiculous names.
So why then? We look like we've already given up here. We're not proffering any solid alternatives to.
It's frustrating when there is a problem and you are at 6 and 7s as to how you can solve the problem. Then we give you the benefit of the doubt. But it's a problem we've identified, and we know the solution to the problem.
And we have the remedies too.
When a minister or a president comes out and says the IGP should do something, we've given the IGP the power to do something, I just laugh. It's just like a father that has threatened to flagellate his child in public for doing wrong.
Right.
Then in private you tell your child, I love you. Don't mind the people.
Yeah.
You don't really care whose ox is God. That is fundamentally what is happening. In the space of 1 week, if the IGP should be politically empowered, these ridiculous names, Delta Forces, Invincible, all of these groups would be dealt with. But who is he to arrest? There are regional chairmen of political parties that have actually told the president sometimes that I can't work with this regional police commander, and you are transferred. So therefore, because there is no certainty about what happens after they have taken a radical, position on some of these issues, they are scared. They are completely helpless. So I think the buck stops with the politicians. They will do this country a lot of good, because the notion that is being created out there in the international community is that we are a lawless country. We are a lawless country. And the earlier we resolved that, the better it would be for us, so we don't scare away potential investors.
Alex, what would you add to that?
Well, I think in all of this, pretty much the rule of law just has to come into play.
The rule of law.
Yes.
See, when it's very convenient for us, we apply the rule of law.
Yes.
No, you see, the problem about this is that you have all these invisible forces, Delta Forces, Kandahar boys. They are even naming themselves after hotspots in
the world.
in Iraq and all those places. The problem is that these people, because they have that kind of bravado to go into these things, they are the same people who are the land guards. They are the same people who will be, carrying small arms, which are illegal around in the system. And they are the same people who, in some cases, might even connive with other groups to destabilize other areas. And when they realize that maybe they don't have political backing anymore, because they have some kind of, grouping or organization, they can go on and terrorize innocent citizens at any point in time. I mean, this is how the Taliban started.
Okay, let's do this on the issue of giving the police an easy pass. Something as basic as someone violating a traffic rule or traffic law. What's stopping the police officer from arresting this guy and taking them to book? That's no.
For something that petty, I blame it on the poor remuneration police officers get. I interact and I do training. I do training for people in uniform.
Right.
They complain to me all the time.
Yes.
From all the, from the Navy, the Air Force, and Armed Forces, the Ghana Police. Go to a police barracks and see the squalor in which some people are living. You live in a single room, you are crammed in there with your wife and 3 kids.
You're nodding. I'll give you an opportunity to ask you. But what I'm saying is, listen, what I'm saying is, if these guys get arrested or fined or whatever, you get more monies coming into the coffers of the government.
Yes.
That could end up making your salaries slightly bigger than what it is. But if you're just going to look on and have people misbehave in the streets, listen, it's natural law. If I can get away with a small crime, I'm emboldened to get away with bigger ones. So if I'm a tricycle carrying water in that Abubuya people, and they come against the opposite traffic, and the police officer stands aloof and does nothing, these guys hit cars and take off.
Yep.
Okay, that doesn't need any from whoever for the police officer to do it. So maybe you can tell the guys that, listen, if we do things right, I always believe that the way we behave in the streets is a microcosm of how the nation is, how lawless it is. So maybe you can tell them, like, listen, if we do the small things right, okay, we can curb these intransigents, make some more money, put in the coffers, we get civilized. Because listen, the more advanced you get, the more civilized the population is.
But Koteche, you have been a bit simplistic.
Well, we have to look at it very simplistically.
When you break road traffic laws, and you are taken to the nearest police, do you know where the money goes? It's not like in the States where you are given a ticket and you don't pay to the police officer or the one he's answerable to. There is a system in place. You are fined the 1,000 Ghana cedis for parking at a wrong place at airport, for example. Do you know where the money goes? It doesn't go into government's chest. It doesn't go into government coffers. It finds its way it goes through other channels.
So do you think these new technologies are going to help remedy these issues?
Yes.
Absolutely.
So go ahead.
Oh, I mean, there's a reason why the ports went paperless. It has helped to ensure that there is full traceability. I mean,
yes.
One of the biggest problems we have in this country is we can never track and trace anything. And in my other hats that I wear, that is the kind of business I do, traceability. Okay. We are in a country where, for example, was it last week or so, a whole container full of rotten chicken has disappeared. If we had systems in place that could track the origin of things to the end in a fully transparent format, there will be no reason why I wouldn't be able to track this chicken today. And I have deployed systems like that in different verticals in East Africa and elsewhere. And I see the problem very easily in all of these things being that Ghana, unfortunately, is not a systems thinking country. We hate systems. We hate anything that has to do with conforming to.
Because then it will be an audit trail to the whole transaction.
Yes, because nobody wants accountability in this country.
Because, I mean, you use rough examples like organizations that use GPS as part of their logistics management systems. You check with them, they'll tell you how disciplined their drivers are. Because the drivers know that someone is sitting in the office somewhere knowing exactly what speed they're going at.
Exactly.
Right.
Whether they've parked somewhere with the air conditioning on, whether there are ties, the wrong ties are on them. You see, so the systems do work. And I mean, you look at things like, for instance, our traffic lights.
Right.
If, for instance, if they had the kind of cameras that you find in the UK and the USA, I can assure you that people wouldn't be jumping a red light that often.
I saw how, I think it's Seoul, is using this high technology to control even pedestrian crossing and all of that. Yeah. And they've even imported it to Azerbaijan or something like that.
No, but people will always do what you inspect and not what you expect. But the question is, how many of our major intersections in Accra have got surveillance cameras? Police stations themselves are not under surveillance. That is how serious it is. So that is why I think even though we feel comfortable thinking globally, we should look at the idiosyncratic challenges we face
local,
as a country.
the behaviors.
No, but
that's what I'm saying. Maybe we need to localize some of these problems. One other thing about intersections. Have you realized that we have this obsession with intersections and junctions? Have you noticed? We put up billboards, trotro stations and everything, and that's what causes so much traffic, and we don't even seem to understand. We make these, we're supposed to be signed to every international thing, and I think it's like 10 feet from the junction, you should not park and everything. But the police officer is standing there, and the trotro, he stops for the people to cross. One time I asked the police officer, what's jaywalking? He asked me, is it around here?
They don't know.
No,
So,
maybe he didn't hear you. Maybe he didn't
No, the
hear
police
you.
themselves seriously are grossly under-resourced.
Yes.
The police will
But
tell
there's
you.
some basics that don't need, I mean,
No,
if you
but-
had proper training,
but
okay,
It's-
you
it's-
should
it's-
know that jaywalking,
Training is also part of
Part
that
of the
resource.
resources.
Ibai,
Yes.
let's say training, you offer training to
Yeah, I
them.
do training and retraining for men and
Retraining, that's what I'm retraining to it as well.
Yes, but when Solomon, Alex, speak and they create this heaven on earth because of the pace at which we are moving as a country, I shudder to think, let's hasten slowly. Let's get the fundamentals
Bring the
right.
Opokuwari new out.
Yeah.
Fast and unlimited.
Oh, please. But you see, one of the things that we've got to remember is, okay, our guys in the police force, the army, and all the people that you've been talking about the remuneration not being great, to be honest, to a certain extent, they know what they signed up for. They said they will uphold the law, and that's why they're wearing the uniforms. And yes, you might be right in the remuneration not being great,
Okay.
but it doesn't deviate from the fact that
Thank you.
you have to carry out the duties that you have signed up to.
Right.
Okay, it's not the only job that where you talk about not being paid well. There'll be several organizations
There
that
has
you go
to be a bit of a patriotic commitment and sacrifice
Exactly.
to whatever
Exactly.
we have to
So,
do, especially
I mean,
when you
if you
said
sign up
we are
to
not
it-
that developed to a certain point.
No, but-
Okay, let me take your closing remarks. This is all time is going to allow us for, the conversation always gets, shorter when it's interesting. So, Ibai, let me start with you for your closing remarks.
What I would tell the Republic of Ghana is that the issue of vigilantism is not insurmountable. We just need the political will to resolve it. And mind you, no political party can be in power forever. As these young folks go haywire and do whatever they want without being punished, Ghanaians, whether in 2020 or 2024, 2040, are going to have a new government in place. And if we don't prefer the right solutions now, then we will be creating a chain of Frankensteins
Bigger Jatabi.
that would come to hound us as a country. So therefore, Mr. President, please give some biting teeth
Crack the whip.
and crack the whip. Let the IGP do his work.
Okay,
and in a
Alex.
matter of a fortnight, see if somebody will have the courage to come out and say they are doing things against the state. But they know they will do it and go scot-free.
Thank you. Alex, closing remarks.
Okay, pretty much I'll talk about the cyberspace and the advantages of it. But I think in all of this, one of the things we have to make key, whether in our schools, our companies, dealing with our customers, is all about making sure that we give them some kind of security awareness, make them make them aware of what kind of gaps or what kind of threats or risks there are using particular technologies, and how we could actually protect ourselves
Okay.
from being exploited using those technologies. So, I mean, awareness, I think, is very, very key, regardless of what industry you are and what kind of technology you're using.
Wonderful. Salom.
Yeah, we need to be strategic. When Lagos had a similar problem with what they call touts, the governor of Lagos State then, Babatunde Raju Fashola, decided to use those same thugs as traffic wardens and city wardens.
Okay.
The effect was phenomenal. Lagos
Recycling.
became... Yes. You see,
Recycle the
all
people.
these
Labor
guys are
recycling.
people who want opportunities.
Yes.
There are opportunities for them where we can plug them in and they will fit perfectly because A, they are leaders in a certain way, B, they know how to mobilize, and C, they have a lot of brawn. What we need them to do is to have things like sanitation forces and the rest, and recruit those people and put them there, where they feel they are also contributing something, because all they want is the ability to also contribute something and also feel like they are doing something. And if you legalize it in that way, whether they are from Kandahar or they are from Delta Force or from Rambo 1, they would all feel galvanized along a certain course, and they will discharge it very effectively as well as contribute to society positively.
Thank you. This is Ghana Tonight, and we've been discussing cybersecurity and how we can get ourselves well positioned to avoid any hacking or attacks. And we also touched on how we can proffer solutions to how we can curb vigilantism or political militancy. My guest in the studio tonight has been Selom Abrantier. He's a communications director for Imani Ghana. Alex Opon is a principal consultant for E-Crime Bureau Ghana. And Ibard Katache Ibard Ibrahim
You attended a good high school.
is an international relations, diplomacy, and security analyst. Thank you for joining us. Please come back and join us on Wednesday, same time. Good night.